Second comment is let's go Jeff, party at Jeff's from KG. Okay, so I have people here. My end is working. Can you guys hear Kevin? Because we're doing something tricky.
And we're live. We're live right now on Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube and on Jeff Cavanaugh on YouTube. It is our Cowboys Dolphins pregame show. Cowboys taking on the Miami Dolphins live at Hard Rock Stadium at 3:25. Cowboys at 10-4. Dolphins at 10-4. Dolphins secure a playoff spot if they win today. Cowboys looking for their 11th win, looking to bounce back after losing on the road last week to the Buffalo Bills. Kevin Gray of 97.1 The Freak. Jeff Cavanaugh of 97.1 The Freak. He's happy because people are live, leaving him comments, having a good time. Aisha Morrison, she's in here too. Good to see you as well, Aisha. Make sure you go listen to Girls Talk, Boys Talk every day, Monday through Thursday. Look, I know we're going to promote you in just a second, but I got to give love to Aisha because, you know, she's a friend and love Aisha. Jeff Cavanaugh, you can find him on Twitter at Time for Jeffrey, hosting the Speakeasy Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. on 97.1 The Free. Cowboys analyst extraordinaire. We are live talking Cowboys, Dolphins. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, did you figure out if you're working with me next week? Because somebody in my chat said y'all should take this show to the radio. And we did last week, one day of the week. And we're supposed to one day this week, but I don't know if Kevin's going to be able to. He might back out on me.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out, shout out to Julie Dobbs, if headed to the Cotton Bowl on Friday because Mizzou is playing Ohio State at AT&T Stadium in Jerry's World. And, we don't play in New Year's Six games all that often. So I may be at the Cotton Bowl. I'm supposed to have some friends coming in town for the game as well. So we will see. I'm getting confirmation as the next couple of days go on because I don't know if you heard, Jeff, tomorrow's Christmas. So there's a lot going on between now and Friday. So I'll let you know very, very, very soon. Okay?
I know what it is. I know it's Christmas. I had to go get presents like an hour ago. I went shopping.
Yo, so you were one of the ones out there doing last minute shopping. Is that it?
Yeah, what people don't realize is that actually shopping on Christmas Eve is really easy. Don't go on the 23rd. The 23rd is hard. The 24th, people have already given up or already scrambled the day before. The 24th is a breeze.
Well, I did a little bit of shopping yesterday, and I had the pregame show for the Mavericks before they took on the Spurs last night. And, of course, our studios are right across the street from the Galleria. And when I tell you the in and out parking lot to get to the Galleria was absolutely insane yesterday, it was wild. Hopefully as wild as it will be in Miami today.
Yeah, our work at 97.1 The Freak, somebody in my chat said they missed me on The Fan. I'm not sure what that is, but I work at a radio station, 97.1 FM in DFW. You can hear me from 2 to 6 Monday through Friday. Kevin Gray also works at 97.1 The Freak.
That's right.
Mavericks pre and post, and when he's not skipping to go to a bowl game, he does radio with Jeff and all sorts of fun stuff. Shout out to my guy KG in the super chat who wants a score prediction and wants to know where Formula is at. Formula is a really strong Jeff Cavanaugh YouTube channel supporter, as is KG, because they know that this channel was created basically for the pool fund.
That's right. That's
Pools
right.
cost a lot.
I
still owe $26,800 on a pool,
especially when you make payments on them
that I don't use. But I do need to pay that off. So, yeah. My official score prediction, which I reserve the right to change today.
Okay. All right. Okay. In the next hour and a half,
I picked like 33-24 Dolphins or something.
Ooh,
which is a great way to get everybody to immediately leave the channel, hit thumbs down, and tell you you're a hater. But I don't know. We can talk about all the things that go into a prediction. I think I've probably moved a little bit. I think I made that prediction before we realized they would be missing 3 offensive linemen instead of 2. Although technically they're not missing one of them. He's just playing out of position and he's bad.
Yeah,
we can talk about all the things that are going to matter in this football game for show, because Tyron Smith being out could be bad news bears for the Cowboys, but we can't use that bad news bears for the Cowboys as a reason that they're going to lose the game. Like, well, you don't have Tyron. Like, they don't have guard, center, guard.
That's right.
That's a problem.
No, that is a problem. That is a problem. And you mentioned Tyron Smith. He is out of today's game. He's got a back injury. Zach Martin does look like he's good to go, though. He was seen early on this afternoon on the field in Miami working out. He's dealing with a quad injury, but he looks like he will be okay to play today. But Chuma Edoga is going to get the start at left tackle for the Cowboys. Has made several starts for this team, but at the same, and he's been okay. He's been okay. But Bradley Chubb, who had 3 sacks last week, is licking his chops, I'm sure, knowing that he doesn't have to face Tyron Smith. Tyler Smith, though, is still there on the left side at guard, but a big piece missing on this offensive line, and Zach Martin a little bit compromised as far as the offensive line is concerned. So let's start there on the offense, because I think this is what a lot of people came to see today. We know that we got, the Ravens and the 49ers on Monday Night Football, probably, other than this game, the best game of the weekend. But people, Jeff, have come for the offense for today's game. The 2 highest scoring teams in the NFL was the Cowboys and the Dolphins. Star power on both sides of their offenses. Miami, of course, with Tua Tagovailoa. Tyreek Hill, who looks like he's going to be okay to play. He's been dealing with an ankle sprain. He's going to be all right. Jalen Waddle as well. And, of course, the Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb and, of course, Dak Prescott. Hopefully Tony Pollard can have a decent day. Some history could be made for CeeDee Lamb today as far as catches are concerned in Cowboys history, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But what for you, 30,000-foot view jumping into this game, is your most favorite thing about this matchup between the Cowboys and Dolphins today?
I mean, I like that it's sort of a battle. Okay, you know what? I'm going to give you my favorite one, because anybody who partakes in the Jeffrey, who watches content that I put out, you should know that I football.
You
That's
do
what
football.
I do. I football.
Yeah, a lot.
I watch the football.
I
watch the tape of the football, but I also like the nerd stuff. I love the nerd stuff.
You are a big analytics guy. You do love the analytics. Yeah, you are.
So, like, I'm a big believer in, like, it's a lot of these things aren't hard, right? Like I told people earlier this season, the Steelers suck. I promise it'll catch up. Like, they were winning their close games. That's an unpredictable thing that doesn't keep up. Like, we know how this stuff works.
Then they go beat down the Bengals on,
and the Eagles. The Eagles were not really going to be a 15-2 team because the numbers said they weren't. And now look at them. It's like, yay. And so when you look at things and you do point differential or you do EPA per play, which if you're not into the numbers, don't worry about it. Just know that it's just measuring, did you do a good job on a per play basis? After you ran that play on average and your next play, how much did you increase your chances of scoring points? So the Cowboys have a top 5 offense and defense. I like it when it's in chart form because you can see, like, good offenses. Let me see which way it's going to be for the camera. Good offenses are over here and good defenses are up here, right? And so the Cowboys are over here and up here. And when you put their logos in there for where each team is, the Dolphins and the Cowboys are humping. They're the same team. Like, EPA per play, they're the same offense and the same defense. So, like, the point spread makes all the sense in the world. It's moved to 2.5, which in Vegas these days, you don't really get 3 points for home field. It's more like 2 or 2.5.
Sure.
And so the betting public, Las Vegas, the numbers, they say these teams are perfectly dead balls even. And it's a road game. So should we pick the Dolphins to win? Probably. But that's the most fun thing is, Dak's been an MVP candidate this year up until last week, where maybe now he's not. I don't know. Micah Parsons is a defensive player of the year candidate. Deron Bland's been great. Everybody who's watching us probably knows a lot about the Cowboys. Just know that their offense over the course of 14 games is exactly as good, and their defense is exactly as good. So this should be a fun game unless the Cowboys suck on the road.
It should be a fairly even game. And I think that's the part where people, when they look at how even these teams are, they look for differentiating factors. And one of the ones that has been of most concern for Cowboys fans here recently, as you mentioned, is their inability to win on the road, losing on the road against San Francisco, against Arizona, badly losing against Buffalo last week. And not only that, if you're a subscriber to the thought of, they don't also, not only do they not win on the road, they don't win on grass. You got 2 of those things happening today in Miami. Grass field in Miami, on the road against the Dolphins. So whether you think those are significant factors, this is the game for you. But I tend to think more so based on what we saw last week against Buffalo. I think a lot has been made about this Cowboys run defense. How do they go about stopping a guy in Raheem Mostert and also Devon Achane? Mostert got 20 touchdowns this season from Miami. Achane has been really good running the football, and how much more physical Buffalo was last week against Miami or against the Cowboys. The problem is this week, Dolphins can do all of it. They can run the football. They can pass the football. They've got a lot of different ways they can beat you. And more importantly, they're really multidimensional in how they deploy their weapons. Hello, Tyreek Hill. And Mike McDaniel, I think, is going to try to put as much pressure on this defense as he can to show them different looks to try and create mistakes within the secondary to allow them to be able to exploit what can be sometimes a secondary that can give up big plays, and the Miami Dolphins love to have big plays in their offense.
So here's where I think you just have to – the Cowboys in the offseason massively overreacted to something, and they were dumb to do it. And then they immediately realized that they were dumb to do it and changed their minds. They massively overreacted to how many interceptions Dak threw last year.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to ignore his entire career, the number of tip passes, the fact that they had bad wide receivers. You have to ignore all that and just go, oh my God, Dak's throwing too many picks.
Yeah.
And so they were like, all right, new mantra, baby. We're going to run the ball and we're going to play defense and it's going to be awesome. And they got like 5 weeks in the year and they're like, we ain't never going to win doing this crap. And so they let their awesome quarterback be an awesome quarterback. This week, I think what you can't overreact to is the fact that you got run over last week. Because if you do that, like, yes, any team that really wants to, and if it is your absolute goal, my goal in this game is to make sure that you don't run the ball well. You can do it. Absolutely. You can put enough people up there and put bigger people everywhere. You can do it. And Mike McDaniel will be standing at full attention below the football waist. Like, what? You think your guys can cover my guys in man defense? Good luck.
Which the Cowboys love to play. Dan Quinn's defense love to play a lot of man defense. And when you look at the speed that the Dolphins present, I don't know if I want to put Stephon Gilmore, who has been really good this year, Deron Bland, of course, pick six king in the NFL, put those cats one-on-one in a lot of opportunities today against those two receivers because speed kills, and they do more killing of everybody with speed than any other team in the NFL do the Dolphins. I don't know how much man. Do you anticipate them staying in man and trying to defend these guys one-on-one with Bland and with Gilmore on the outside and taking their chances with these two guys?
I mean, the Cowboys, it's what they like to do. You know who my new favorite defense in the NFL is? Let me make sure I'm doing this right.
Keep the team from scoring more points than the other team,
No, I like coaches who try stuff and aren't like everybody else. So currently my favorite defensive coordinator in football is Brian Flores in Minnesota.
He's doing a really good job in Minnesota. Yeah.
So Brian Flores's defense leads the league in how many times they rush 6 or more people. And they also lead the league in how many times they drop 8 people in coverage. So he is just on this seesaw of send everybody, drop everybody, send everybody, drop everybody. He does both of them more than anyone, and it's fun. But I guess my point about that is I don't know with Dan Quinn. Like Dan Quinn, obviously, every year when the Cowboys play good defense and they have a bunch of turnovers and a bunch of pick sixes, he gets
which is what they do.
And I think that I think he's a very good coach. I think dudes love playing for him. I think he has a lot of things going for him. I don't know how open he is to totally changing what he does when it's what you should do in a game. Because, yeah, they like to play with a single high safety. They don't love playing too deep. They don't love playing those sorts of coverages. They like to have a safety down, and that's partially because of who you have. Like, you don't really have a deep safety other than Malik Hooker on the roster.
Right.
I think if the Cowboys play the way that they normally play, they'll get torched. If you think you can play man coverage with one guy deep and like that'll work, I think
that's not gonna work. No.
And so I do think the fun part of this game is it's a couple of things. One, your defense needs to bounce back and be more of who they've been all season than they were a week ago. Your run defense needs to bounce back and be more who you've been all season, which is a middle of the road run defense. They're not like, I know that's a fun thing for Cowboy fans to complain about. It's like, we've always sucked at stopping the run. Like, they're middle of the road. They're fine. They sucked last week. And probably the more important thing is they need to get their offense to travel. And I believe it was Marshall Falk talking about it recently, yesterday, today. I don't know, whatever.
Just to let him talk about football.
I guess. But like, I totally buy why the Cowboys offense isn't regularly the same on the road as it is at home, because everybody's better at home. Everybody's better when the fans shut up and you can have a snap count that is your voice instead of a silent count. And it makes it easier for you to be in motion all the time. It makes you easier for you to change protections and change plays over and over again. It lets you be in full control of what you're looking at, all those different things. But if they don't get out and the Dolphins do, then I do think that, yeah, Mostert will run for 100, Achane will run for 100, and they'll beat you by 17 because you won't get to do what you want to do. What you want to do is go score points, play your offense the way you play your offense, and have them play their offense the way they play their offense. Miami can run the hell out of the ball.
They can.
They want to throw the hell out of the ball, and you would like them to throw the ball. Because with three backups, or technically Eichenberg, I guess, isn't a backup, but he's playing center when he is a guard, and he's awful at both. You want them to throw the ball with three offensive linemen that are suspect. That's what you want. And teams in close games throw the ball because it's the best way to run an offense. Teams with big leads run the ball so that you can't rush the passer, especially if they can get first downs doing it, because their primary concern is no longer scoring a touchdown on this drive. It's eating clock, maintaining a lead, and getting the hell out of here. So I think the Cowboys offense has to get going. The offense is more important than the defense. The offense is what lets your defense be good. If you can make people play the game you want them to play, then Micah Parsons gets to eat.
Yeah, the Cowboys are a front-running football team. They love to be able to get out and score points and then be able to have you play from behind, which allows them to get after the passer and rush the quarterback. You talked about how this offense needs to get going. The stats you need to know, shout out to ESPN. The matchup between the Cowboys and the Dolphins featured the top two scoring offense in the NFL, both averaging over 30 points per game. This will be the third time since the merger that two teams averaging at least 30 points met within the final 3 weeks of the regular season. The previous two such matchups occurred back in Week 15 in 1983 when Washington defeated the Cowboys. How about that? And then the Packers defeated the Titans back in Week 16 in 2020. So again, this just gives you an indication of how well these offenses are playing, that this deep into the season, we're having two top scoring teams, in the NFL getting together. And I think for me, when I look at this matchup between these two teams, I wonder, and you talked about, what the Dolphins want to do in terms of throwing the football. Tua Tagovailoa gets the ball out quick. He's not a guy that's going to hold on to the football and give you a lot of opportunities for you to be able to rush him in terms of this offensive line. So even with the suspect offensive line that they have, Tua kind of takes some pressure off of that by getting the ball out quick. And when you've already got guys like Tyreek Hill running in motion, it makes it that much easier to get the guys the ball in space and then let them go do what they do. I'm focused in on the tackling today. Can you limit Miami from getting extended big plays because you weren't able to tackle in the open field, much like how they couldn't tackle last week? This time it was in the running game last week. But you've got to be sure-handed in terms of getting your hands on guys, because if you don't, they're going to find a way to make things happen down the field with yards after the catch.
Yeah, I agree. I think you need the fact that their offensive line is so beat up to really show up. You need them to not be able to block the way that they want to. You need them to not be able to protect or run block the way that they want to. Because one of the fun things about Tua is when he's on time and when he's protected, he's a beast.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think Tyreek Hill is right, but Tyreek Hill says he's the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he's right, but he is very good and he's very accurate. And when he's not pressured, he is one of the three best quarterbacks in football by the numbers this year, by his performance. When he is pressured, he's one of the three worst quarterbacks in the league by the numbers. It's like there's just such a difference for that offense that if he's clean and if they get the look that they're expecting, and, especially if it's man defense, because Tyreek Hill is the most uncoverable player in the history of the NFL in my eyes.
Agreed.
I mean, there's you can bring up other names, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice,
Randy
whoever.
Moss comes to mind, yes, but I get the point, yes.
Tyreek Hill, I think, in man coverage is the most uncoverable dude to ever step on a field. So if you play it that way, it makes it a lot easier for them to get things out on time, unless you're the bravest man to ever play corner in the league, and you're going to play press man because I'm going to jam him up.
Wait, what?
I'm going to really disrupt the timing. He's going to win that foot race. Just a matter of if he's going that way or that way when he goes around you. So yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to affect Tua. You've got to be able to give them a look they're not expecting, or you can't be in a defense where Tyreek Hill, if he runs across the field,
Mm-hmm.
the only dude responsible for him is the guy behind him.
Yeah,
Because that
that's
dude's
not what you
dead in the
want.
water the first step he takes.
Yes.
This is a team you got to play coverage against. You have to. And if you get beat by Mostert and Achane, then people can jump in the comments on my YouTube and be like, "You're a stupid head, Jeff. You were so dumb." And I'll be like, "Yeah, they ran wild on you, but if not, it was going to be Tyreek for 304 touchdowns. What do you want?"
I'm about to say, yeah, you pick your poison on a day like this. And I think that's interesting because that's part of the dilemma when facing teams like the 49ers and the Dolphins. Oh, that's right. Common, similarities with the case comes to offense. Shout out to Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan. Of course, Mike McDaniel used to work for Shanahan when he was in San Francisco. And part of what he does is you need to pick which poison that you're going to take, because I've got enough weapons to beat you in a number of different ways. Oh, and I've got the nerve to have enough creativity within my offense to make you make mistakes based off what I'm dictating to you, based on the way that I'm playing, whether it be running the football or being able to get the football out in space, to my receivers. And I want to take it to the other side, because we talk a lot about this Miami Dolphin offense versus Dallas Cowboy defense. You remember that one time that one guy named Vic Fangio brought the Denver Broncos to AT&T Stadium and they beat up on the Cowboys, and Vic Fangio was like, yeah, I got the blueprint on how to stop this team. Now, granted, Kellen Moore was running that offense. Kellen Moore was running that offense, a long time ago, that kind of thing. But I am interested in the chess match between Fangio's defense today versus Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer in this office, because one of the favorite matchups that we'll see from time to time today is Jalen Ramsey versus CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's having a career year for the Cowboys. Do you think Jalen Ramsey will travel? Because I don't think I expect him to travel much with CeeDee, but do you expect to see him maybe travel a little bit more than what we're accustomed to, and given what CeeDee Lamb means to this offense, especially at wide receiver?
Just my gut is that he doesn't follow. I'm sure that like Jalen Ramsey would be fine with doing it, but it's just my gut is that he doesn't, because, well, I don't know, because my question is, what would the Cowboys do about it? Because I think anytime that a guy is following somebody, if I'm the offensive coordinator, I'm just going to make it impossible for him to follow. It's gonna be like, okay, great. He's now my motion man on every play. Like, yeah, sure. Follow him. You're never going to touch him off the line of scrimmage. We're going to have picks inside and outside. Like, your life is going to be hell. You can't follow him. If they do, it's a really fun matchup.
Yeah.
I love both of them. I forgot what I was going to do. I had a plan there. My guess is that they don't.
Okay.
And whether they do or not, oh yeah, Vic Fangio. It's the dumbest thing. It's the dumbest. It was the blueprint. It also became, I don't know if people remember this, it also became the blueprint on Pat Mahomes, was rush 3 or 4, drop 7.
Everybody in coverage. Yep.
Yeah. And like, that's the blueprint. Yeah. If you can get pressure with 4, stop the run with a light box, and they don't call plays to beat your whichever coverage you're in on that play when you're dropping everybody, whether it's man or zone. Yes, every defense is amazing if you don't ever have to send an extra rusher, and if you're able to confuse the offense post snap. But that's one of those things. It's like the look on Dak's face, because I think Clarence Hill asked him about it this week. It was the same one I would have given, where like, as the question's being asked, I'm just like, oh. Because Clarence asked me, he's like, yeah, Fangio, a couple years ago, and Dak was just like,
"We're doing this again? We talking about this again?"
He's like, I don't think that's gonna work. Like, I don't think, no, go ahead, give it a shot. But yeah, every defense would love to be able to have 7 guys in coverage, 4 guys rushing, and while doing that, be able to stop the run. If you can do it, congrats. You have an awesome defense, and you're going to make life hard on people. But a version of that worked last week because they were able to pressure the quarterback with 4. Dak, in those scenarios, I think you just have to, a lot of those times, you just have to be like, that's fine. I'm going to run for 8 or 10 yards every single play as the quarterback. Or you have to have the right plays called. And that goes back to, on the road, it's a little bit tougher to do these things. to feel like you have a better feel for what they're about to do, because you can take the clock down and it's silent and I can adjust as much as I want. And then eventually I can get into the right play call, which is I feel like you're dropping 7, but you're in man, which means it's going to be a 15-yard out to CD with a dude running a fly because his guy's going to go with him. That safety has to account for him too. And now I got my best player one-on-one. Once I get you moving downfield, it's like I can beat 7 in coverage in a 4-man rush if we can block a little bit and if I know what you're going to be in. So the idea that it's a blueprint, I think, is kind of silly, but that's what we do. But that's just kind of what we do. I don't think that's a blueprint to beat the Cowboys. I think that's a blueprint to win every NFL game you ever play. If you have a super dominant front 4, you can drop 7 and you're getting pressure. Yes, you're going to be really good.
And I think, and I think that's what makes teams like San Francisco, when we look about them, and again, the similarities between San Francisco and Miami offensively are always there. But I think it's part of what makes things difficult when you look at teams that have a terrific front 4 that can drop as many guys in the coverage and then be able to allow it and still get pressure while being able to stop the run with minimum guys. Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to do those things. I think for the Cowboys today, it's going to be about, are you going to be able to dictate to the Dolphins defensively what you do best? Getting CeeDee Lamb out in space, Jake Ferguson being able to be effective in the middle of the football field, putting pressure on the back end of the secondary to force you to tackle in open space. And more importantly, can you find some measure of run game? I'm not saying you got to run for $150, $175 against the Dolphins, but can you run the ball enough to make them respect you offensively to be able to open up some things, hopefully in play action, where we know Dak Prescott is really good when it comes to being in play action and making things happen down the field, especially when he has time to be able to survey and make this happen. Again, not rocket science when it comes to most quarterbacks in the NFL. Good with time, good in play action, because you can see things open up down the field. That, to me, is what I'm going to be looking for offensively for the Cowboys against this defense. Can you give me enough of a run game to make Miami respect you? That way, some of these playmakers can be able to make some things happen in the open field where Dak Prescott can find CeeDee Lamb, find Jake Ferguson, hopefully Michael Gallup involved a little bit, Brandon Cooks as well, being able to make some things happen, taking the top off the defense. That, to me, is my number one thing when I look at the Cowboys offensively today.
Did you say Gallup?
Look, man, all hands on deck to get this point in the season. Look, he was able to have,
when was the last time you saw him open?
He had a good game against Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, man. Let's not act like Michael Gallup didn't have a good game.
Oh, his good game against Philly was a 40-yard gain late in the game, which is literally the least likely completion in the NFL this entire season based on separation and throw, and Dak put it in a bucket.
Yes.
I'm just complaining to complain because he's one of the guys that, it's interesting when you cover a team for a while and you get to know lots of things, and that it becomes really hard to root for pretty much any team, because then you realize who on the team. It's like, oh, I don't actually want that guy to win. But Michael Gallup is one of the guys that I do want to win, because I think he's one of the sweetest men on planet Earth. So it makes me really sad that he just can't separate anymore. It makes me so sad.
Yeah.
And I would love to see somebody step up and do that. Whether it's it's not going to be Gallup. He could have a game. He could get open on some slants or win a ball down the field.
Guy. Cooks is supposed to be your separator guy.
And
he's a good route runner, and he's still got good enough speed right now to be able to do some of those things.
I can tell you this: I don't think he's a good route runner. I mean, I think he might know what he's doing as a route runner, but his build and his everything about him,
now, those are two different things. Physical stature versus the mechanics of running around. Those are two different things. He may not have necessarily the physical build that you feel like of a prototype wide receiver, but I feel like he uses his footwork very well to be able to get open most of the time.
I think his stature is why he's not, or maybe I'm using the wrong wording with stature, but I do think the body type is probably part of it. But the guys who get open are the guys who are real loose athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he runs like a sprinter. And those guys aren't if you get man coverage, I would love for Brandon Cooks to be a big part of this game. If CD is the focus and you can get snaps where it's Brandon Cooks, because where you really want him to win is on a post route where you have a choice. Which way is the DB? Do I want to leave it across the field or down the field or whatever?
Not the one he had last week against Buffalo and they couldn't complete it.
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of what he has at this point, is he can still run fast. He can still win deep. But outside of go ball, post, outside of that, I guess on his stop routes, you're just really hoping that the DBs respect the hell out of his speed because he's not a fast stopper and he's not a fast change of direction guy. He's a fast guy.
Yeah.
And so that's how he has to win. And so I think the Cowboys have to figure out how to mix all of the guys they have, because outside of CD, you don't have a real life dude, except maybe Ferguson.
Yeah.
And so like Cooks needs to win in the ways that he wins. Gallup's hard because it's really like he has to win on slants, and he doesn't really do that anymore because it's kind of all he's got. So maybe he has to win a contested go ball.
Yeah.
Turpin needs to do bits and use his speed and try to get him in some space.
Sure.
And you got to just kind of run different guys through. And I would love to see a game where it's a bunch of those, where it's like, hey, big play. There was that big play by Cooks, and and that one by Turpin. And and Tolbert, I don't know, Gallup, I don't know. I'm trying to find more, which sounds like I'm bitching, but if you look around the NFL for like, hey, give me all the best receiving cores, I'd be like, I don't know, but the Cowboys are probably in the top 10 on CD alone, basically.
Yes.
There's really not a bunch of great groups of receivers, so I'm just complaining to complain. But yeah, I'd love to see a little bit of everybody doing a little something, and Pollard makes some catches, and you mix it up. The biggest thing in this game is, I think it's a race to 30 points.
Agreed. I would agree. The first to 30, I think, wins this game. Yeah.
But I also can envision a game where their offensive line struggles hold them up, and the Cowboys, you're on the road against a good defense, jams them up, and we get into a weird, ugly one. But I think it's a race to 30, and it's just a matter of this is the next thing I want to do. It's really a matter of, do you still feel about this Cowboy team the way you felt before the Buffalo game or before the San Francisco game? Because there were definitely times this season where I felt like, yeah, they're going to win 12 or whatever again. But this one feels different. Like, this feels like a better team than the ones we're used to, where it's like, yeah, you're going to get to the playoffs and so what? This one feels like they're better than that, or did at different times in this season.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
And if you believe that, this is a game you win. You beat the Dolphins with a beat up offensive line on the road. If this team is better than the last 2 years, this is the sort of game that you win because they're better, because Dak is playing at a higher level, because the offense with McCarthy looks like a smoother operation, because Stephon Gilmore is playing at a high level. I just think if you want me to believe what I have believed for the majority of this season, that, holy crap, top 3 to 5 offense, top 3 to 5 defense, that's a real Super Bowl contender. And if I want to get back to that place, then this is the sort of game you win. And my brain is yelling at me that I don't think they are.
Well, and I think what you bring up is something that I know I felt personally, and a lot of Cowboys fans felt going into the Buffalo game last week, is those exact same sentiments and thoughts are, is this team good enough to beat what should be a better team than Buffalo, given the personnel and the level that they were playing at, especially coming into that game and the way that Buffalo has been trending, teeter-tottering with inconsistency throughout the year. Could you go up on the road in that environment and go get a win there? And they got stomped out by the Bills. A lot of the same way I think fans feel today, going up against, yes, another uncommon opponent, but a team that is very evenly matched with you. But can you do the things? These are the kinds of games I don't like, because these are these quote unquote narrative based games where you see all the evidence that is presented to you throughout the season that this team is really good based on the numbers that they put up, based on the way that they played against certain opponents. But then when they don't do certain things that give you indications about whether or not they're a true Super Bowl contender, and then they lose those games, a la games against good teams on the road who are playoff contenders, who legitimately have a chance to make a deep playoff run, and you can't beat those teams, what am I supposed to feel about you as a football team based on all the evidence you presented to me and what you can't do when the things that quote unquote matter most aren't getting done to give me indication that you should be on the short list of one of the teams playing for the Lombardi Trophy by the time they get the season's end? That's what this game is, and I hate it, because if the Cowboys lose this game, What's the conversation going to be on Monday and Tuesday and the rest of the week? This Cowboys team, as good as they are, can't beat good football teams, can't win on the road, and don't give you indication that if they are put in these situations again, that they're going to respond because they haven't beat San Francisco, they haven't beat Buffalo, they haven't beat Miami, and they haven't give you enough confidence to think that they can make this happen based on getting to the playoffs again this year, because they're obviously already in the playoffs for a third year in a row here.
I guess the good news would be you'd have a chance to change the narrative literally 1 week later, because Detroit's a good team. You'd go smoke.
Would you though? Because Detroit defensively isn't great, and you've been killing people at home. So I expect you to win that game at home because you've been destroying people.
I mean, if you expect to, what is Detroit right now? Are they 10-4?
10-4. Right? Yeah, going into today, yeah.
And they're currently up by 2 scores on the Vikings. So if you blow out an 11-4 division leading team at home and we just dismiss it because of some other games, like, that's dumb. That's weird.
They blew out Philadelphia at home. And what do? They turn around and get blown out the next week by Buffalo.
Yeah. And that's what, and that's football. The reason we love it is also the reason that it gets talked about in ways that I think are kind of silly at times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because every game is so important. There's only 17 of them. We play
only 17 of them. Yeah.
It's awesome. Right. And that's why in football, if you want to get the best handle you can on how good a team is, don't intentionally shrink your sample sizes. It's a bad idea. We're going to play 17 of them. If over the course of 17, you scored 250 more points than the other teams, you're really good.
Yeah.
And if you just want to go, well, what about the good teams? They did some bit Buffalo and San Francisco. And I'm like, okay. And then they beat the crap out of Philadelphia. So what did I do? Did I just cancel one off, or what are we doing here? And like, that's football. I do think if you get blown out in this one, you might earn that. But if it's a competitive football game, the first game they played against Philadelphia, competitive football game, and you lost. Excuse me. I didn't take anything from that game. I took, those 2 good teams played. The end. There's nothing to take from it.
Yeah.
The San Francisco game, when they blow you out, and they've also beaten you 3 times in a row. Sure. Now you can take a sample size of a team that's largely the same, and your team is largely the same. And you could go, man, that might be a bad matchup for this team. That might be a team that they just have trouble with. But uncommon opponents that beat you on a given day, you can't take that as proof of something. It's just a bad idea. Otherwise, we could go whatever team you want. San Francisco is an effing juggernaut, but they've got a 3-game losing streak in there.
They do.
Maybe it's just healthy San Francisco is the juggernaut. Yep. You take away their left tackle and Debo, and maybe not so much, and McCaffrey for part of it. But yeah, narratives are mostly dumb. Like,
I mean, but
let me change that. Because if the narrative is true, then they're fine.
Yeah.
Platitudes are dumb. Where you just put a blanket statement over anything, and it's like, right, but what about, and it's like, I don't care about that. And it's like, okay, so you're not actually saying anything in good faith. You're just saying what you're emotionally feeling at the moment.
I mean, because the narrative is based on what we have seen and observed throughout the course of a season. And if you continue to do the same things over and over again and prove to me once and for all in certain situations that you just can't get it done, then that's the story and the narrative I'm going to assign to you. And I think that today is why this game for me and a lot of Cowboys fans is really important, because this is yet another chance to change some of that conversation around this team, even with all the evidence that presents to us that this is a really good football team that should be on the short list. You've got to prove on the field that you're capable of beating these kinds of teams that you're going to eventually see down the road. And if the Cowboys do that today, I think that goes a long way to that conversation in backing up the evidence that the numbers present based on the way that they turn teams over, based on the gaudy offensive numbers that they've put up so far this year. All of these things, I think, get solidified based on beating good football teams. In Miami, it happens to be one of those, even if they are an uncommon opponent. For today, when you look at the matchups, is there an X factor or a matchup based off of what we've talked about so far that will give you most indication on what you think will happen in today's game between the Cowboys and the Dolphins? Excuse me.
I think I'll have a pretty good feeling what this game is going to look like after 2 Dallas drives. Really, Like, is it going to be the incredibly reserved and unimaginative, static offense of standing still because on a silent count we're afraid to move people and we're afraid to actually go attack?
Okay,
Or
so real quick on that. Reports are that there's a ton of Cowboys fans in Miami. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a problem today because I think there's going to be a ton of Cowboys fans where the whole, silent counts and having to use a lot of that. I don't know if that'll necessarily come into play because it'll be pretty noisy for the Cowboys. And I think they'll, the home field advantage I don't think is nearly as pronounced as it was last week in Buffalo.
if the offense comes out of the gate looking anything like the Cowboys offense is supposed to look, then I think that we are likely in for a very fun game that we'll see. But I do think the possibility looms that those road struggles continue, where there is something funky and different about what they try to do and about what they do on offense. If this offense doesn't show up and start pretty fast, then I do think they could get blown out.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I can't see in this game, and this is going to sound like a hater, but I'm just trying to honestly picture the game in my brain as it's playing out. I don't think I can picture Dallas smoking Miami. I can picture them getting smoked.
Sure.
And I can picture a competitive back and forth high scoring game. And I can picture a competitive struggle for both teams to score. If, the Dolphins, I don't know if you call it luck or that they're fortunate, but they lose Jalen Phillips, Thor looking dude, Van Ginkel. He's a friggin' player.
Yeah, he can play.
Terrence Steele's going to struggle with Van Ginkel. And Bradley Chubb might eat up Edoga. So I can see this game going so many different ways, but the only one that I can't picture in my brain and be like, yeah, I can see it, is the Cowboys smoking them. I wish I could
Dolphins
see
are
it.
just making a bunch of mistakes. If the Dolphins are making a bunch of mistakes and they're able to take advantage of turnovers, okay, yeah, maybe. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't see a scenario where the Cowboys walk into Miami and take them out by 30. I just don't. I don't see that based off of whether these two teams are.
But I want them to, because one of my favorite things about the Cowboys so far this year is the vast majority of their games, as a viewer, is very relaxing. I like football and I like sports. I don't like the stress of it.
Right.
I'm an anxiety person. I don't like unknown things. So I love that the Cowboys most of the times will show you in 3 drives if they're going to win by 40 or lose by 30. And we can just kick our feet up and watch the rest of it and not worry about it because we know what's going to happen. But I think this will be a good one. Oh, we got a super chat from KG. I unbiasedly, as much as possible, think if the Cowboys get the 2 seed, we will go on a huge run. What do y'all think? Sorry to get you off the topic. If you got the 2 seed, I have to map everything. And I want to be clear about this. The Cowboys losing today doesn't cost them a chance at the 2 or 3 seed at all. None.
No.
If you believe in the desperate team theory, Miami is more desperate than Dallas to win this game. Dallas, your route to winning the NFC East involves having the same record as Philly and them losing a game. You could run the table and they lose a game and you win it. So that would be great. But a loss doesn't kill you because you need a Philly loss regardless. And if you lose and they lose, now you're going to win the division if you guys win the rest. But if you both win out, you lose. So the loss ain't going to kill the Cowboys because they need a Philly loss no matter what. This loss could put Miami playing for their lives in week 18.
Well, if they win today, they win the division. They secure the AFC East and are able to secure their playoff spot. That's what's on the line for them.
Right. They're playing for everything. If you beat them, then they're staring down the barrel of maybe playing Buffalo in a winner take all.
Yes.
And they don't want to live that life. So you are in a week where if you're a desperate team theory guy, Miami is more desperate than Dallas today. Unless you just think Dallas is incredibly desperate because of all of the different narratives that need quashing, like our road struggles, our good team struggles, whatever. Miami needs to beat a winning team too. I believe they haven't. I believe they're 0-3 against winning.
Yeah, both of these teams have similar quote unquote narratives when it comes to beating quote unquote, good teams. Coming
like I told you earlier, same team.
Exactly, same team. Exactly. But
looks different, same results.
Yeah, you talked about desperate team theory. Buffalo was that desperate team last week. They had to win last week to keep their slim playoff chances alive. Miami, same thing. Don't want to have that potential, game at the end of the season where they're playing to secure their spot. They're trying to lock that in, today. So I think there are a lot of things that you look at this game and you say the Cowboys can do well against the Miami Dolphins doing this. I think Dak Prescott can have a good game against this defense. I know that pressure could be coming with Bradley Chubb, who had 3 sacks last week. Van Ginkel, good player, can get on the outside and get after Terrence Steele a little bit. But the offensive line, to me, is going to be what tells me the story today for the Cowboys, because if they can find a way to protect Dak Prescott, give him some time, again, establish some semblance of running game to make the Miami Dolphins respect you, this team can move the football on Miami. Miami doesn't necessarily scare me per se. They've got good players, good skill guys on the outside with Xavier Howard, and obviously Jalen Ramsey, who's an all-pro. I'm not taking away anything that they have defensively there. But I believe in what this Cowboys offense and what they've shown me throughout the course of the year is they are really good. And when they are in sync, there aren't a lot of teams in the NFL that can stop them offensively, especially if Jake Ferguson is getting out here, getting loose in the middle of the football field, making things happen up the seam and making things happen from a yards after catch standpoint. They're going to have a hard time tackling my guy because he is really good out in space. And I think he's going to be a big X factor for the Cowboys today offensively to make things happen for them.
You know what? Okay. I like what you said about Ferguson. I'm going to give you Jeff's 2 X factors of the day.
All right.
Without the low hanging fruit, like X factor, Dak, CD, Micah.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That's not an X factor. That's got to show up, period.
Okay, so Jake Ferguson, I think, could have a big day and maybe should. Because when you look at the Dolphins, their linebackers are Duke Riley and Long.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, like Long, is way more of a run defending, can't cover me kind of guy. And Duke Riley is the more athletic, can cover, more liable in the run, but he's a can cover guy that's really small for a linebacker. Like if Jake Ferguson is running routes on a 6'1", 225 guy, he's still open.
Yes.
So Jake Ferguson, X factor today.
Mm-hmm.
Other guy, Osa's had such a good year.
Yes. Yes.
Osa Odighizuwa lining up across from Tweedledee and Doo and Liam Eichenberg. Like, who are the backup offensive linemen are? Cotton and Jones. I'm not going to click them because I don't care what their first names are.
Yeah, Lester Cotton and Robert Jones, yeah.
Not good NFL players. Not guys you want starting. Not guys you want playing in an important NFL game against a good team. Osa got to eat in there. And because you're not going to get help from your other defensive tackles. It would be great. I mean, I don't want to take shots at Mozzie because I do think that he's gotten better as he's gone along, but he is absolutely still not any sort of anchor in the run game that's going to like pick you guys up and get you somewhere. So Osa against their interior line, Jake Ferguson against their linebackers, Jeff's double X factors of the day.
You realize the only person in the interior this season who has a better pass rush win rate than Osa Odighizuwa is Aaron Donald.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's the kind of year that Osa's having. He's got 3-4 sacks on the season, but yeah, his pass rush win rate is only second to Aaron Donald this season in the NFL.
But we got to earn the right to pass rush, KG.
I mean, that's what I've heard.
We got to be stout first. We got to be stout.
And look, people have been telling me, look, man, this is the week that Micah Parsons really gets after this Miami Dolphin offensive line. And you talked about how compromised they are. I feel like for DeMarcus Lawrence, who's going to be really stout in the run game today with the with the 2 backs that they have, with Achane and Mostert, who is has a nose for the end zone. Like I mentioned, he got 20 touchdowns on the season, for Miami. This is a game for Micah Parsons. Sam Williams, Dante Fowler, some of those guys opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence. When you get your opportunities, you got to get after the quarterback today and try to make things difficult for Tua to get him out of his rhythm. Because if you talked about the first couple of drives of the Cowboys telling you what you would need to know for the game. If the Dolphins in their first couple of drives sit back there comfortable, Tua's picking things apart, they're able to use their creativity with their speed and everything on the outside and they look unbothered by the Cowboys pass rush, that to me is going to be a real indication that it's going to be a long day for Dallas in dealing with this offense, because that's the one thing you can't allow Miami to do is get comfortable in rhythm, because if they do, that's when they start dictating pressure to you defensively and putting you on your heels. And then you don't get the right to earn, your way to the quarterback because of the way that they're dealing with you offensively.
All right, I have a Sam Williams question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Will Sam Williams make a splash play in this game, whether it's batting a ball, tackle for loss, or a sack?
No.
Will Sam Williams have a penalty today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably right.
He's I'm just saying somebody opposite DeMarcus has got to get out to the quarterback. Somebody.
Sam Williams is the guy on this roster that all of the people that love him and are calling for more Sam Williams and all this. And I'm like, I get it. Like, the talent's there. I would love for him to play more too and just absolutely wreck shop. The problem is that he could get you a sack and a half and 4 penalties. And it's just like, can I get any sort of consistency, please?
Who does that remind you of?
Please just follow the rules.
Who does that remind you of?
Hold on. Let me think. Penalties and David Irving.
That's one. That's one.
Who?
Remember he used to wear number 94 down here?
Randy.
Yeah. What did we say about Randy Gregory all the time?
Yeah.
Randy's great. Got all the talent in the world. Can get after the quarterback. But what's he going to do? Maybe get you a sack and a half and 4 penalties in a game.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, Cowboys are good at finding those guys.
KG, I'm going to need your prediction, and then we're going to have to go because I've heard my dog whining for the last 10 minutes, and I just watched him rip his cone off of his neck.
Oh, no.
He broke himself. He likes to lick himself, so I put the cone on him. He doesn't like it. He just managed to rip it off in the doorway, so I got to go.
Oh, no. Okay,
I got to go tackle and put it back on. So give me a prediction.
Okay.
Give me a prediction, and we're getting out.
No vet this time, though, right?
What's that? No. It's just
okay.
It velcros, and so I guess he just put it against the wall and was like, "Nyah!" and it just goes. And so I just had
31-27 Miami. 31-27 Miami.
Okay, I have 42-0 Cowboys.
Don't do that. No, you didn't. You literally said earlier on the game or early on the show that you did not have that particular. Look, I'm trying to keep it real, man. I'm trying to keep it real. Miami's tough to deal with today. I think the Cowboys lose by 31-27, which means reverse psychology, which means the Cowboys win.
Because I want to pick the Cowboys to win because my brain is just like, they haven't beat a winning team either. The teams are very similar. They're missing more offensive line than you are. Mm-hmm. It makes sense to pick the Cowboys to win, but I can't lie about what I'm feeling. 30-24 Dolphins.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, I encourage everyone to come back to this video, and hit like, make sure you're subscribed, and in the comments say, Jeff, I love you, and I think you're really smart, but you were wrong this time. And I'll reply with, thank you. You're correct. How about that?
Make sure you subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Subscribe to Jeff Cavanaugh on YouTube as well. This was a lot of fun, our Cowboys Dolphins pregame show. If you liked it, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, let us know how we did. And we may do some more of this at some point down the road. Probably no post-game show because I'll be at a Christmas party, so I won't be able to do it. Yeah, so sorry if you were looking for a potential post-game show. Not going to happen today because
I'll be at my incredibly wealthy uncle's house, hoping that he got me something.
Hoping that he got you something for Christmas.
Yeah, hopefully he's just going to share. That'll be good.
We may do this on Saturday. Cowboys play on Saturday when they take on Detroit, so we may do.
Why not? I'm not doing anything. I just sports. That's what I do. All right, I'm going to tell my people something. Hey, remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through, so be cool to everyone. I love you. Be easy.
Thanks for joining. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
Let's see if I can hit stop.